We like to answer your garden questions here on the Garden Basics podcast. We get a question from Sacramento from Teresa. And here's Teresa's question.
Hello, Teresa from Sacramento. I believe I'm in 9B. Calling to find out about my future garden, new gardener here. We just purchased a home. We've been doing a lot of stuff to the backyard, DIY, and going to have a garden. So that's exciting. I want to know if I should be adding anything to the soil if I'm going to plant in the ground. I did the soil test that Debbie mentioned a few weeks ago, or maybe my listen a few weeks ago, where shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. I thought I had a very clay soil, but I don't know. I saw a lot of sand in there, so I'm a little confused. But just wondering, should I add anything to the soil? I guess it depends on what I'm trying to plant. And definitely going to start off with herbs and some low-lying, easy to germinate and eventually get yield from plants, and then move into the big dogs. But thank you, and hope I gave you enough information to answer my question.
Debbie Flower is here, America's favorite retired college horticultural professor. And Debbie, you want to know my favorite part of that interview?
Sure.
Here it is.
Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up.
Yeah.
She'd probably be fun to go dancing with.
Exactly. Very musical.
Yeah.
I like that. And the shake it up, shake it up, shake it up refers to your suggestions about how to determine how much sand, silt, and clay you have in your soil.
Right. It's called a soil texture test. And you put get about a 1 quart jar, peanut butter jar, mayonnaise jar, something like that. Fill it 1/3 to 1/2 with soil that you dug around from the root zone. So you scrape everything off the surface. Dig a shallow hole, 4 inches maybe. Take stuff down there. And if you need to know if you're going to plant one area and treat it the same way, fertilize it the same way, irrigate it the same way, mulch it the same way. Take bits from all over that area. Put them in the jar. Add just a drop of dish soap. And then water up to within about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of the lid. Put on the tight-fitting lid and shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. I had the students do it for 10 minutes. They could get up and walk around the classroom, turn the jar upside down, sideways, shake it back and forth. They could talk to each other, whatever, but you're shaking the whole 10 minutes. And then at the end, put it down on a hard surface on the desk.
On the top?
Or no, the bottom. I like to turn it upside down first and do the last shaking that way, and then turn it so the bottom is down, the lid is up, and put it on a hard surface like the desk and let it settle. And the sand will settle out first, the silt will come next, and the very last to fall out of that soil is the clay. And if you have a lot of clay, it may take days and days for the clay to settle. Then you measure the layers. If you don't want to wait days and days, you just add a little 1/8 of an inch more to the clay layer. So you measure the height of the sand, the height of the silt, so from the sand to the clay, and then the height of the clay. And you know the differences because they look different. Sand is more gravelly looking, and silt tends to be darker than the sand, and the clay very smooth.
And cloudy.
Yeah. It stays in the water a long time. And you can find it online at Soil Texture Triangle, and you take the total height of the sand, silt, and clay together and then create fractions. How much is sand? How much of that total height is sand? How much is silt? And how much is clay? And then you plot those fractions on the soil texture triangle. Teresa said she thought she had clay soil, and that's very, very common. Many people think they have clay soil, and they don't when they do this test. And I've seen that over and over again with students because they brought their own samples in from someplace that they were aware of and potentially gardened. And it's usually because the soil has been compacted. It has not been maintained as an open soil. It's been walked on when it's wet. It's not been protected. And so those layers, the sand, silt, and clay get smashed together. And that's why the water doesn't drain through it very quickly.
If you go online and after you shake, if you've done all that work to shake up the jar and let it sit there, you're going to see those layers. You might as well call up a soil textural triangle on a website. I'm at the University of Wisconsin's extension website now, and they define each of those 3 layers depending on how thick they are. They got percentages of silt, percentages of clay, and the bottom one is percent of sand. It's at the very bottom. It goes from loamy sand, sandy loam, silt loam, and silt. The middle layers are usually sandy clay loam, or silty clay loam. And then you have 2 layers of silty clay, and then the top layer, which is the top third of this triangle, it's clay.
Mm-hmm. Clay has an overarching influence on the texture of the soil. And the texture is how the particles fit together, how water moves through them, how air moves through them. It takes less clay to influence the structure than it does other things. You can have as much as 60% sand or 50% sand, and if the rest of it's clay, you can still have clay soil. Mm-hmm. So learning how to use this triangle is important.
But so what? I mean,
right.
It's like, okay, I got all this sand, silt, or clay. Now what?
So knowing the texture of your soil is helpful, but it's not end all and the be all.
Which is what I'm getting at is, why go to all that trouble of shake it up when you can just send $20 to Colorado State, Texas A&M, or the University of Massachusetts Amherst and get a soil test done?
And they will do texture, and they will do some of the chemical components as well. But I can pretty much tell you that you're going to be low in nitrogen.
Well, yeah.
Everybody's low in nitrogen all the time. It needs to be added on a regular basis. And that your soil, regardless of what texture it is, can be improved by adding mulch.